Hi, this is Tony Ruggiero here on the Tour Coach Podcast, where we bring you the best mental coaches, fitness experts, teachers, players, everything from my journey in the game of golf to help you learn to play better golf, teach better golf, and enjoy the game. Come on in. We're going to have some fun. All right, so here we are, live from the rental car. Don't laugh. So I've got a couple firsts for all you out here on U.S. Open Week. I had the first glass of red wine out of the player support, along with Jackson Koert, Dr. Greg Cartin. We're on the team with Emilio Gonzalez. He's probably going to fire us after he hears this. But anyways, we're in a rental car on the way back to the airport. We're doing this hotel. Sorry. Clint might be able to edit that. But anyways, let's just talk about U.S. Open. We got a nice little 30-minute drive to the Westin where we're all staying. Jackson, you saw the golf course today. Mm-hmm. I want you to tell me, what can folks expect to see this week out there? Obviously, they had a lot of rain during the week before this, and a little today.
In 2 weeks or something like that.
Yeah, a lot of rain. It was soft. I was surprised they were actually watering the greens this afternoon. But tell us what you saw on the golf course and what players can expect.
It was my first time at Oakmont, so it was incredible.
Oh.
I mean, mind-blowing. And then Doc was talking about on the putting green how there 5,000 trees have gone. They've taken
Whatever it was,
the golf course.
The course was tree lined for years.
So wide open, you can see everything now. It was incredible. We were only on the front nine, and the gentleman that was walking with the group from Oakmont gave us a couple good tips, and basically the areas that they made harder from 2016, like there were a couple banks that you could use around the greens or maybe even with approach shots to access some pins, and they basically leveled some of those out. Everybody's seen the rough clip on social media
in the ditches that used to have a chance to play out of them.
Yep, like left of 9.
No, you can't.
So the fairways were a little bit more generous than I was expecting, but I think it's because the rough was so bad.
Yeah.
So weather dependent, if it gets fast and firm, which it should, I expect to see some carnage, which I love for the U.S. Open. It's
Tom Lovelady, who I hope joins us tomorrow on the pod, who's caddying for Stephen Yeager, but everybody that listens to this, I think, knows Tom Lovelady, one of our good friends, former PGA Tour player, Dewsweeper extraordinaire. He's played here a lot, and he said that the weather's supposed to be really good from now basically through Friday, and the anticipation is that Thursday, Friday, it could get really firm and fast, which would be really difficult for the cut.
Yeah.
Right. I was here in 16 with Smiley. And so, the golf course obviously has been altered a little since then. Doc, you did the research where, was what did DJ win at 4 under?
It was 4 under. The cut was +6.
+6. I asked Tom if he thought it would go higher than that. And I think a lot depends. With the rain, I think it makes it play longer. But yet the greens will be softer. So not sure how that's going to affect the game if it gets as much rain on the weekend, because the weather's supposed to be kind of crappy on the weekend.
Yeah, apparently it was rolling to 14 today. Here's a good one. Guy said the fastest he had played it was 16.4.
Jeez.
But he's heard that it got to 18 at its fastest. Mm-hmm. But that they want it firm.
Up here.
Thank you. Firm, not fast. I don't know. I mean, it's already at 14. Like, it's pretty fast.
Yeah.
So, golf.
And for the folks watching at home, you don't see this, but we as Player Sport, we get texts from the USGA. We got one yesterday that said we're not allowed to use any type of system that measures the speed of green.
Yeah.
So they clearly don't want anybody really knowing how fast they are.
Yeah.
Right. That's probably piss pricey.
That golf course is good.
All right. So I'm going to pitch it to you first. A lot of these are very obvious, but what do you think it's going to take from a playing perspective to play well there?
Personally, I think it's going to be a middle of the green contest. Like, I think if the greens are the way they are, and maybe they've gotten harder in spots, it might actually level out the playing field a little bit from a putting standpoint. I mean, obviously you have to putt good. You have to do everything good. But if you hit a ton of greens, I think that's the easiest recipe around the golf course.
think you got to drive it well.
Correct.
Like you said, I like that the fairways are a little more generous. I remember when it was in Wingfoot after COVID and it was in the fall, fairways were crazy. I was with Lucas. He drove it beautifully. He was up there near the top in ball striking, but like fairways were, it played firm and fast. Fairways were so narrow.
Yeah.
But if you got into the rough, it was really big. It really made it to where even the good drivers missed a lot of fairways.
Mm.
And that's the one Bryson won, and he was bombing it. So everybody missed a bunch of fairways, and I don't think it put nearly as much. I don't think that the good drivers of the ball got nearly as reported in that.
Okay.
Whereas also in a U.S. Open, even that one didn't have fans because of COVID. But like the outside areas, the further off the fairway, because of carts and traffic and stuff, was more beaten down and different things. So if you missed it wider, you had a bigger advantage. So I actually thought it penalized some of the really good drivers of the ball. And I told him, and I've told many people this, like, and I know it's Emilio, for all those watching, pull for Emilio Gonzalez this weekend and this week, his first major. I mean, he, on the Korn Ferry Tour, he's one of the best all-around drivers statistically. I mean, he's not a bomber, but he hits it plenty far, hits it over 300 yards. And he, last couple of weeks, he's hit 83 to 85% of his greens. That's a great recipe here, right? And I think a lot of it's going to come down. I think one of the things that's very underrated that's going to be really important here is lag putt.
Oh, for sure.
Because, and people don't pay attention to that a lot, in my opinion. But it's going to be a huge deal.
Yeah.
And 3-putt avoidance is going to be huge.
Yep.
What do you think, man?
Yeah, agreed. If you hit a bunch of greens and then you miss inside of 4 feet, you'll be just fine.
B-ball. Love it. Greg?
Yes.
We'll pitch it to you. You've coached a lot of folks at majors. You've coached a lot of folks at U.S. Opens. How the heck do you get them prepared to deal with, like, I was telling Amelia, like, well, one, how do you help somebody get ready for their first major? But two, like, the U.S. Open is different because it just beats the hell out of you for 4 days.
Right.
And it's a different, like, to me, it's different because, like, in a Korn Ferry event, if you got 2 over par, you're 36 out of the lead, right?
Right.
You know, I mean,
So par is like changed a little bit.
right. So how do you help people?
The first thing is not to overdo it in terms of giving what they're trying to do too much credit, meaning, oh, it's so hard, I got to do this, I got to do that, it's different this week. When you boil it down, they still want to do all the same things they do week in, week out. I think the most important thing is, especially on the greens, you could be hitting a lot of greens and hitting even close, and it's going to be hard to make putts, right? So staying patient, and have a few 3-putts, right? And like even on the practice green this afternoon, Emilio hit a few putts that just, skirted the edge, and all of a sudden it's 15, 20 feet back.
Yeah.
So it's a fine line between 3-putt avoidance and being aggressive enough to make a few as well. So I just don't want guys to think they have to do too much different than what they usually do. And that's a hard thing to do at a major because it becomes a circus. The golf course is very challenging, no doubt, but if you're hitting it well up the tee, you're hitting your irons well, and you're making putts and chipping the ball well, you'll do fine anywhere.
I also think there's a real premium on, like,
Route 28 South coming up at 3 miles on the left.
I love it.
In
You're
3
following
miles?
us to the
I mean,
airport.
0.3 miles.
Okay.
So I also think there's a real premium here on 30 and 50-yard shots from the fairway and getting good at hitting those numbers and controlling your spin,
Yep.
how you want it, and controlling your trajectories, because you're going to miss, even though the
That's where
fairways
you're
are
gonna be backing out
right.
to.
You're going, and if you're lucky,
If you're lucky, yeah.
right? So you're gonna have to be good at those, and I think that's going to be. I've always thought that from watching the U.S. Opens, that the guys that when they miss a couple of those, and then they're able to save par with a 50-yard shot, it's a huge momentum boost and a huge round saver, right? And I just think that's.
Yeah.
So
Well, here's the dangerous thing about that. You can wedge one out after a bad drive to 50 yards, hit one in there 5, 6, 7 feet, and you're under the assumption I gotta make this putt to save that hole, and blow it right by and make it double or triple, right?
Yeah.
So you still have to be patient on those.
yeah, strategy crazy good too. So example was number 7. That's the hole for 7, the one before the 300-yard par 3.
We're on this for 7.4 months.
Thank you. Yeah. So let me merge. All right. Finally, this multitasker.
It's one of the best pods. You don't watch
Live.
no laying up or anything like that. They're not doing it on a phone in a damn Mazda rental car. Well, I'm holding the sumbitch drinking wine going down the interstate, and Jackson's trying to navigate.
Okay.
Just lucky I hadn't taken a gun.
Correct. So Miles and Emilio hit it in the left rough on 7. Somebody in the group hit it in the right rough, and both. So Miles was actually able to hit a 5-wood, like kind of like chopped this thing out and chased up there to 30 yards, right? Emilio was able to get a 7-iron on the back of it, barely carry a bunker, but it raced out to maybe like 80. Well, homeboy that hit it in the right rough had to literally pitch sideways, and then he had 190 yards into the same hole.
Yeah.
So some of that is actually like, it's okay to miss in the rough. Am I on the left side here, Doc? Oh, good.
Staying straight.
So some of that too is like, if you hit it in the rough, it's okay so long as it's on the correct side of the hole, depending on the angles, which is going to be huge for 4 days.
Well, angles is a huge deal there. I mean, in Emilio, kind of going towards prep, for those of you who wonder what we do on a Monday, little insight. I called Emilio in the middle of last week, and I said, do all of your technical stuff last week. And we shared videos, had a phone conversation, refreshing the things that we work on. And I said, because once you're here, I want you focusing on playing golf.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
He's been playing it.
anywhere
Right.
outside of here.
And to explain how different that is, I think people don't understand, like, you can't really prepare for Oakmont. Like,
No, then that's exactly the conversation he and I had. Like, you want to stay sharp, you want to hit balls and get putt, but you're not going to do any prep for this course at home. You got to get here, but then here's the other part. 1, it's his first major. 2, you got to be real careful he doesn't overdo it.
Yeah.
It's fun to be out there.
what else did you see out there? You did the front 9.
I know I only saw 9 holes, but it was 9 of the best designed holes I've seen. It is a great major championship venue.
How cool is that view on 4th?
Unreal. So good. And so the strategy, obviously off the tee, is huge, but also around the greens, and being able, I think, obviously with the rough around the greens is going to be super lie dependent, but got to judge the lies and give themselves the most chances, I think, from the correct, talked about angles, right? Like number 1's a pretty good example. It actually slopes back to front. So does 3. And a couple of the pins, obviously you want to try and get it close, but you're better off missing on the back right side of a green, which when is that ever the case when you're actually playing golf? But it's the easiest chip. And there were a couple things that were cool nuggets on, I think it was 3 as well. Everybody walks off the back left side of the green. So all that grass is trampled. So if you do hit one down there, you're chipping into the green with that long grass going that way. But if you miss it on the right, it's just kind of fluffy sitting up, and it's kind of still an uphill chip.
Yeah.
So
in general, last question to you. Short game shots. How do you prepare? What type of short game shots are people going to need? I saw obviously you got there, you worked with Emilio.
Yeah, so I was thinking about it, and I did as much recon as I could when Emilio made it last week. I think in major championship experience, I don't have much, right? It was just Masters, LA to here.
Yeah.
And I think the short game from LA to here is wildly different.
Crazy different. I didn't feel like LA was a real US Open.
No, because the fairways were.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, I don't even count.
Right. But there it was, you had to have
You had to have
to LA. 4
They
I
don't
think there were like 4 different like scenarios that you could get at LA.
Yeah.
Well, here there's,
Yeah.
right. But being able to control your golf ball out of that rough around the greens, it really matters. So, well, yeah, but like that's what Emilio and I were doing when you guys came up, was figuring out obviously how the lie is in the grass and basing his setup around it, and then like a couple different feels with the club head going into the grass to control the consistency of the speed of the ball, which I think is massive, and then having it some sort of consistent trajectory that's coming out of there, because the way that the grass grabs the club can change that if you don't control those variables based on your ability to assess and set up for the line.
I also think you're going to see the use of multiple clubs around the greens from the best players.
Yeah, and the bunkers are firmer this year.
Yeah.
So another piece of strategy. This is an interesting one. This is not my own. I was talking to Jimmy Ellis, who from Pittsburgh originally, phenomenal golfer, medalist at the USAM last year. He won the state am here, good player, anyways. He said his strategy when he's played tournaments out here is if it's dry, he hits it in a bunch of fairway bunkers, because when it's dry, you can get it up out of the fairway bunker and still hit it onto the green. But if you hit it in the rough, or if it's like wet and soft, there's no chance you can get it out of a lot of those lips.
Doc, parting shot, people to watch for. What can people watch for? Watching people trying to make the cut, watching people, coming up the stretch. Right?
I mean, around the cut line, people just keep moving forward, are able to shake off mistakes, right? And not try to get shots back, right? And because there are no birdie holes, like birdie holes, if you make a bogey, I can get this one back. But just have to stay patient.
Yeah.
And that's this old cliche, but man, does it play here?
No doubt about it, guys.
Hold on, wait, we got some directions here.
Well, it's we're wrapping this up.
579 south and 376 straight.
Trying to find us. We're getting on 579 south. Jackson, great work today. Greg, thanks for coming as well. Always looking forward to it. Going to look forward to a good week. We're going to have more coming to you through the week.